Hi everybody, in this video we are going to do a foot cramping exercise from a static back position. So this is a great exercise if you are somebody who struggles to move through your big toe joint when you're walking. If we're not walking through our big toe joint when we're walking, we are going to have issues stimulating the muscles that run all the way up through our legs, and that has a bearing on our entire body. If we're not using our big toes, we will feel it somewhere in our body. It might be our feet, it might be our knees, it might be our hips, our spine, our shoulders, or even jaw tension. I see a lot of jaw tension that stems from the feet. So let's sort it out. You're going to need a static back setup. So if you haven't done static back before, then perhaps maybe watch one of my videos on static back. I'm just going to take my microphone actually and pop it on my belly rather than on my t-shirt. So you're going to have your legs hanging over something a bit like this. Your hips are at 90 degrees, your knees are at 90 degrees. You need to make sure that your bottom is very, very close to the thing that you're using because that's going to allow your hips to switch off and relax your pelvis. I've got a pillow underneath my head. You guys might need 2 or even 3 pillows underneath your head because what we don't want is this type of thing going on. If your upper back is tight and your shoulders are quite rounded and your neck is quite stiff, if you're laying here in this type of position, we're not going to get the relaxation through your spine that we want to create. So having a cushion, 1, 2, or 3 is going to make a difference in how well your kind of mid-back and lower back can relax. Palms facing up to the side 45 degrees like this, or if you want to, you can put your hands behind your head. I don't want you cranking your elbows kind of too open towards the floor. Have the arms quite relaxed and passive, so you're focusing more on your feet here than you are what your upper body is doing. It's also really important to make sure that you've got enough padding underneath your calves. So one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make with static back is that they don't have enough padding underneath their calves. So if I didn't have this cushion, can you see here how my ankles are lower than my knees? And if I relax my legs, they're going to flop to the side. They don't have enough support. So I can only keep my legs here by holding tension through them, which is absolutely not what we want. So what I want is for your legs to be held hip width apart from toe, ankle, knee to hip. And I want you to be able to fully relax those legs without them flopping outwards or flopping inwards. My legs are being held at hip distance apart because I have this cushion underneath my calves. Depending on the height of the thing that you're using, but also your own height, you will have to fiddle around with this like Goldilocks to find the position that works best for you. I'm going to put my hands behind my head like this, just because this is going to give me a little bit extra shoulder opening and rib cage balancing and all that jazz. And all we are going to try and do today is point our toes really, really hard and hold it. So this is moving our feet into plantar flexion. This movement's plantar flexion. This movement's dorsiflexion. And for the exercise today, we are just holding plantar flexion. Notice here that as I do this plantar flexion of my feet, which is, as I said, it's simply my toes pointing really, really hard like a ballerina, I'm trying to create as much length through the tops of my feet as possible. So I'm really trying to open up the front of the foot effectively. You might feel it kind of stretching. And at the same time, you might notice quite quickly, or perhaps after a few minutes, that you get cramping in the arches of your feet. And if that's happening, that's exactly what we want. So we want the arches of your feet to be cramping. You might then notice that once the cramping in the arches of your feet have passed, that it starts creeping up to cramping in your calves. And you may even notice that you get cramping in your hamstrings. Remember how I said at the beginning, the movement of your big toe is so important because it stimulates this chain response of the muscles all throughout the body. We are stimulating that chain response by asking your big toe to move in this way. I'm going to set my timer, and I would recommend really holding this for kind of as long as your cramping allows for. So I might say to my clients, let's do this for 3 minutes. Obviously, if you get a cramp, you might need to give your feet a little bit of a shake off and let it pass, but then come straight back to the movement again. Have that understanding and that awareness that that cramp is a great thing for your body. As you point your feet like this, you are trying really hard to relax the rest of you. So you're not tensing up your kind of hips and your pelvis and your belly and your hands and your breathing and your jaw. Everything pelvis upwards is zen. You're trying to relax your thighs, although like I said, you might start feeling a bit of a response up into the thighs because of what your feet are doing, but it's not that you're choosing to keep your thighs tense, if that makes sense. So for me, when I do this, my right foot is not very good at this plantar flexion motion. And I notice that I try and like kind of almost pull my right leg towards me. I'm trying to cheat using my right hip. So I'm having to use my brain to send relaxation vibes to my thighs, my hips, my pelvis, my arms, and my breathing. We're relaxing our jaw, relaxing our belly, keeping breathing in and out of our mouth. And another final tip before we finish here is with this plantar flexion movement, when you've got it and you understand what it is that you're doing, obviously it's kind of simple, but it doesn't mean that you won't feel lots of burning and stuff. Always make sure that you are pushing the challenge of the movement a little bit more. So you might notice that your brain is telling you that you can't point your feet anymore. But if you consciously ask your feet, can I point you a little bit more? You might notice that actually you can point those feet a little bit more, and it creates even more of a burn. So I've just done it. My right foot was being a bit lazy. I've just pointed my right foot more than it thought that it could do, and I suddenly got a bit more cramp in the arch of my feet. And I can feel that there's a kind of warmth, a heat around my calf just on the outside by my knee on that right-hand side. So my right foot was cheating a little bit. My body was telling me that it couldn't go further, where actually I could go further. Keep that upper body relaxed. The only thing that's working really hard is those feet. You are trying to lengthen the tops of the feet whilst contracting the bottoms of the feet, pointing those toes hard, trying to get as much of that opening through the tops of the feet as possible, keeping the upper body calm and relaxed. This is going to help you wake up your feet, stimulate that big toe off movement, and perhaps, you never know, make you feel a whole lot less tense when you stand up afterwards. That was Static Back Plantarflexion. I hope you enjoyed. Bye.